Institutes of Health. Each of the 3 emergency use authorized vaccines are highly efficacious. So I can say that if I walked into my clinic and Pfizer was available, I would have taken Pfizer. If J&J was available, I would have taken J&J. I would have taken whatever was available to me, because the important thing is to get vaccinated, not which one you got. I happened to get Moderna because Moderna was available.
Dr. Nunez-Smith, did you get the vaccine? If so, which one?
No, I'm vaccinated as well and grateful for it. I mean, I work in a hospital and I got vaccinated also where I work, my employer. And when I showed up, what they had was Moderna. And I couldn't agree more with Dr. Fauci. It isn't about the kind of vaccine. When we talk about the flu shot, we take our kids for vaccines. We don't know the brands. We don't ask the brands. What we need is confidence that the processes went well, that we were just talking about, so that we know that they're safe and that they're, that they work. And so, I, like I said, just grateful to have had that chance. I know it's important for my family, my community, to have had the vaccine. And I really want to say that too, what you just said, I echo that. Like, I'm not here to sell a vaccine. We just want to make sure people have information so they can make their own decisions, right? And in the end, hopefully everybody will be able to benefit from the scientific discovery that we've been talking about. I mean, 3 vaccines that work and, have been proven to be safe. That's excellent scientific discovery, and this isn't the time for us to let anybody else take our power from us.
Samuel M. Sullivan wants to know, he says, this vaccine is stated to work. Why is this information not shared and developed globally? That's his exact question verbatim. So I guess what he's asking is the information out there? Is there something that we can look at? Is there a database that we can tap into? Because when you Google it, you get everything, right? You get everything from really, really far-fetched conspiracy theories to actual, plausible conspiracies, right? It goes across the full spectrum. So is the information available, Dr. Fauci? If somebody wants to go and do their own homework, where can they go to look and see what's what?
Yeah, well, for example, you could find out how many doses of vaccines have been actually administered. And the easiest thing, you go to cdc.gov and you just click on search vaccines available and you'll see it. They have tracker vaccine websites that you could find out how many vaccines were administered throughout the entire world, country by country. That's all available when you go and just search for that on the website. The data of the clinical trials have been published in the medical literature. So that's completely available to look at all the data upon which the decisions were made. So bottom line, that is completely transparent and available information.
Okay, so Jeff, Bahia, I believe her last name is Acarelli, wants to know, what was your bout with COVID like? What did you experience? Beginning, middle stages, coming out? Briefly take us through what you experienced when you caught COVID-19. How severe was it, etc.?
It was really interesting because I did a show. My last show before everything shut down was in Ketchum, Idaho. And that was one of the hot spots very early on, and we didn't know. And I came home, and you started hearing the rumblings of what was going on. My wife and I were like, listen, we need to go out and stock the house up. That, unfortunately, was the day that Tom Hanks and his wife came down. Rudy Gobert came down and shut the NBA down. And I looked at my wife while we were in the store, and I said, I didn't feel well. And she said, what is it? I said, I'm feeling a little achy. She said, go home and take a shower. And I vaguely remember the next 14 days of my life. I remember going to the doctor. I don't even remember how I got there. My wife took me. They diagnosed me with double pneumonia. They sent me home, told me to be very, very careful. The irony was I had a very close friend, maybe about 2 weeks before that, pass away from pneumonia. So that stuck into my head. In the beginning, I had no clue that this was COVID. It wasn't until I went through a very extreme, my wife really started making phone calls to my family and my close friends that she didn't know if I was going to make it, because I hadn't spoken for about 10 days.
Are you really?
Yeah, it was
that rough.
It was really, really bad. And I didn't realize how bad it was until I asked her for something to eat, and I took a spoonful of soup and looked until it happens.
Exactly.
And this, unfortunately, was one of those things that you don't want to wait until it happens because there's no guarantee that you're going to come through it. So you just really wanted to, get a megaphone as loud as you can to let people know, listen, I went through this. This was really, really bad. You need to take this very, very serious, so it doesn't happen to you.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you're with us. And, we believe in science and God. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
I believe in both.
Absolutely.
Both can serve you very well. So, Dr. Fauci, so getting back again to questions concerning African Americans, Aaron Butler from Minneapolis said, with black people making up roughly 13% of the U.S. population, and you did touch on this earlier. I know some of these things can get a little redundant, but I still think it's important because everybody doesn't always understand everything on the first answer. So sometimes it's good to just kind of readdress it a few different ways. So Aaron Butler says, with black people making up roughly 13% of the U.S. population, what percentage of the vaccination test participants were people of color? And were there any noted differences in efficacy or side effects from race to race?
Okay, great question. So in the trials that we've done, they've ranged anywhere from 8 as a low to 11 to 12% of African Americans. We never quite in them got up to 13, but we came close. We did better with Hispanics. Hispanics are about 17 to 18% of the population. We generally got about 20, 21% in the clinical trials. That is, I think, a pretty good representation. And as Dr. Nunes-Smith said, when you put it all together, you get over 30% in brown and black people, which is pretty good. What we've got to do better with is the equitable distribution. Because if you look at the percent representation in the community and the numbers who've gotten vaccine, it isn't all vaccine hesitancy at all. It's access to the vaccine. And that's what we're working really hard at. I might make one comment listening to what Jeff said. So Jeff looks to me like a healthy, young African-American guy. And he was really, and being in a situation as his wife was concerned, it could have gone either way. So God bless you, Jeff. You made it. Good for you. But the fact is that we really need to make sure that people don't think that healthy young people, particularly African Americans, are not really vulnerable. They are. You're vulnerable for two reasons. One, by the nature of what you do with your work, you're more likely to be out in the community in an essential job. So just the way he was in Ketchum, Idaho, doing his thing, interacting with people, he exposed himself. It was part of his job. The other thing is that African Americans have a higher incidence of the underlying conditions, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, that makes it more likely when they do get infected to have a severe outcome, which is every much more the reason why particularly African Americans need to get vaccinated.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother conversation, right? Because there's systemic reasons why that happens. There's economic racism has definitely affected, the way, black people live in America and the way, like myself and Jeff, we're anomalies. We're not the norm. So, it's no one can say that, because LL Cool J is on TV and, he's been successful, that every black guy can just make it, or Jeff is, world renowned. It doesn't work that way, right? All people have their issues, don't get me wrong, but we're talking to the African American community specifically. And
can I just add one?
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing, and I just want to say also that, just wanted to piggyback for a second what Dr. Fauci was saying, because Aaron's second part to his question was, any differences noted by looking at, the subgroups within the clinical trials. So I just wanted to circle back and say that those subgroups, we did, right? They did so important to be able to stress that, we had the representation in the trials and also no differences when you look by race or...
We recommend, even though the clinical trials have not been conditions, should be reluctant. It doesn't look like we have any of that with this. But you want to keep watching for it. You don't want to be overconfident. You want to make sure that you continue to observe. But one of the things that people need to appreciate is that when you look at the so-called long-range adverse events, the FDA has looked at that carefully in the entire history of vaccinology. And the overwhelming majority of long-term adverse events occur between 15 and 45 days after the vaccine, after you get a vaccine. And that's the reason why when the FDA gives an emergency use authorization, they don't allow it to be distributed until 60 days after half the people have gotten their last dose, just to be extra sure that since most of them occur by 45 days, they add an additional 15 days to that. And that's when they allow the vaccine to be distributed.
Okay. So I have another question I think is pretty interesting. Lamar C says, why is it called a vaccine if immunity is not the result of taking the vaccine? Is this not misleading? Why not call it a COVID-19 shot similar to the flu shot? Semantics, but a valid question.
Well, the point that the questioner made is that immunity is the result of the vaccine. It is.
Okay.
So I mean, I'd have to question his premise. The fact is, when you get vaccinated, you do get a strong immune response to protect you against the virus. So it is perfectly valid to say that it is an immunization. That's why, the two interchangeable words are vaccination and immunization. They're the same thing. And they call it an immunization because you induce a powerful immune response.
And we said flu vaccine too, but I think this is why conversations like this are so important, because I know that there's something out there trending in social media, like talking about why it's not, there's no immunity, and right. And so this is a great chance to say that's not true. Like, you do get immunity from the COVID-19 vaccine. We could call it the COVID-19 shot, like Dr. Fauci said, it's the same. So you do get immunity from it. But we got to be so careful, because there are a lot of people out there targeting particularly Black and brown communities with bad information, right? And so, like we always say,
I got you
Dr. Fauci talked before about like heart attacks and stuff. If you were having chest pain and heart attack, you would not go to your social media, right? You would go talk to your doctor. And so please, for your information about COVID-19, go talk to somebody who knows, right? And has your best interests in mind.
Thank you. So, Dr. Nunes-Smith, I know you got to go. Dr. Fauci's going to hang a few more minutes, but thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you sharing all of your insights, and, just much success as you go on your mission and share this foundation. Much love.
Hey, quit yelling. Quit yelling now.
Let's talk about
Right,
one of
stop.
the questions that comes up a lot. Pregnant
Stop.
women, pregnancy, children. Should they be concerned? Should women be concerned about, getting a vaccination if they want to have children? Is there a chance they will be sterilized? This is a fear that's out there.
Well, there's two parts to that question. First is a woman who is of childbearing age and is not yet pregnant.
Okay.
Well, there's no indication whatsoever that the vaccine has anything to do with fertility. So that's something that you should take off the table. There's no biological reason to believe that's the case. And many people who have gotten the vaccine, women have gotten pregnant. The next question is, I'm a woman and I am pregnant. Can I get vaccinated? The answer is the studies to specifically look at the safety and immunogenicity are being done right now. However, on the basis of the granting of the emergency use authorization, literally tens of thousands, more than 30 to 40,000 women who were pregnant did get vaccinated. Hundreds and hundreds of them have already delivered. And the CDC follows that very carefully. There does not appear to be any adverse events associated with the pregnancy. This is really important, because what we do know, that if a pregnant woman gets COVID-19 and that would be really a very serious impact on the pregnancy itself. So the reason why many women are getting vaccinated, even though they're pregnant, many of them are healthcare providers who are at an increased risk of getting infected. And they made, I believe, the prudent judgment that I'd much, much rather have whatever risk there is of the vaccination, which there appears to be very, very little, if any. I'd rather have that risk than the risk of what would happen to me and my unborn baby if I happen to get COVID-19.
Jeff, do you have any questions? Do you have some thoughts or comments?
I thought it was very interesting what Dr. Fauci just said, because my decision for getting the vaccine had more to do with my 93-year-old mom. And it was stated to me, I may not know what the vaccine can do to me, but I know what COVID can.
Wow. That's deep. Yeah,
Very.
yeah, because, people out here, debating over whether or not the vaccine might hurt you, but COVID can definitely hurt you. And the probability, if you look at it in terms of probability, there's a lower chance of you being hurt by the vaccine than you being hurt by the actual virus itself, right? Like, it's kind of one of those things. I don't want to promote it. Again, I don't want to promote
absolutely.
it. I'm just putting it out there that's something to think about. You're just gaming out a decision on the decision tree, right? Like, which direction do we go?
Yeah.
Vaccine, the actual virus. Me personally, I go vaccine. That's up to you guys, though. Okay, so Dr. Fauci, can a person, Snipes Murdoch wants to know, can someone request a specific brand of vaccine?
If you go to a facility that has more than one choice, you certainly can indicate what your choice is. However, currently, most clinics and most places that dispense vaccines actually only have one of the three choices. But there will be a time soon, as the president has said, by the time we get to the end of May, there will be enough vaccine to vaccinate everybody in this country. So that means that there will likely be facilities that have more than one brand of vaccine. But my recommendation would be go to a facility that's dispensing vaccines, and whichever one they have available, take it. Because it's more important to get vaccinated as soon as you can than to wait for what you think might be your favorite vaccine.
Got it. We have people of all kinds who listen to us and who love hip hop culture and who vibe with us. And
Is he eating some of your food too?
I read recently about the AstraZeneca vaccine causing blood clots in Europeans. Could you address this? Would that be a concern for people who are prone to develop blood clots?
Well, the European Medicines Agency, which is the European equivalent of our Food and Drug Administration, our FDA, which is the regulatory body that makes judgment as to safety. The EMA feels that there is not an increased incidence of clotting issues associated with the AstraZeneca vaccine. We did a clinical trial here in the United States whose data has just been recently examined, and there was no indication from that clinical trial involving 32,000 people that there was any incidence that was above the normal incidence in community of clotting disorders.
Got it. Robin Steele wants to know, will the vaccine be necessary every year like the flu shot? Or is this going to be, a one and done kind of thing?
Good question. We don't know the answer to that because we've only been doing this now for a little bit less than a year with vaccination. So we're going to be following people for 1, 2, and more years to see if the immunity stays at the highest level and whether people get infected. If they do, we might well have to come back with boosters, but we don't know that right now.
Interesting. So if you had to just completely lay it out for people, and I'm talking about people that are terrified, people that are highly concerned, people who feel they're at risk that things could go left biologically for them, physiologically for them if they take the vaccine, what would you say to those people who are really afraid?
Well, we would say that we understand their fear and we empathize with that fear, but we want to steer them to the facts. And the facts are that these vaccines are life-saving. COVID-19 is a very serious disease. We know that. Jeff can tell you that. 540,000 people have died in the United States, and the safety profile is really very good. So you have a vaccine that's available to you that is highly efficacious with a very good safety profile to protect you against the disease that has already killed over 500,000 people in America. Take a look at that data and make your choice.
All right. Jennifer Langford, just a couple of more questions. Is there a vaccine in production for children under 16 years old that will be safe and effective? And if so, is there a timeline for this?
Yeah. Right now, we are in the process of testing vaccines for younger individuals. Some of those tests have already started. What it's called is age de-escalation. You start off with 16 to 12, then you test 12 to 9 years old, 9 years old to 6, and then 2 months to 6 years. That's what we do. We will know by the end of this year whether or not children of any age can get vaccinated. We'll know by the fall, by September or so, whether high school kids can get vaccinated. My prediction is going to be that the vaccine is going to prove to be safe and induce the same kind of protective immune response in the children.
Okay, and then this question, and I know, Dr. Fauci, you're a man of faith. I was raised Catholic too, actually. Leo Cunningham, you know, his thing is, if you had a chance to talk to people, somebody in the elevator, you know, to the faith community, and let's say an elevator pitch to the faith community about COVID-19 and vaccinations, what would you say? How would you make it plain? You know, as they say in the black church, how would you make it plain to someone in the faith community who has religious reasons why they think that God will help them and they don't, you know, need this?
Well, if you have religious reasons, I hope that would be associated with a responsibility to your fellow man and society. So you get vaccinated, two things happen. You protect yourself from getting ill, but by blocking the dynamics of the outbreak, by getting infected, what you do is you indirectly protect your family and your community, and by extension, the entire country. So if your faith tells you that you have a responsibility of love thy neighbor as thyself, a good way to show it is to protect your neighbor by getting vaccinated yourself.
Excellent. So, final last question before we wrap up. Leanne Walsh, I think this is a good way to end it too. Can you speak briefly about, in all of the things, all of the wildfire rumors and things that are flying all over social media, and how people should look through that information and kind of, how should they deal with all, when they're being inundated with all these different theories and ideas, how should they deal with that?
Well, that's a great question. So one of the great things about social media, it's a good way to spread correct and useful information. But one of the bad things about social media is that it's a very bad way to prevent bad and incorrect information. But when you're dealing with your health, as I think Dr. Nunes Smith said before she left, the best thing to do is ask someone you trust, like your physician, your family doctor, or a trusted person. That's where you want to find out what kind of a decision you should make about vaccines and about COVID-19, not social media.
And I would just say that, you know, before we wrap, just there's some people that don't even have doctors, and for them, is there somewhere that they can look? If someone who doesn't have a personal physician, don't have private health care, who do they deal with?
Well, if you have access to a computer, just go cdc.gov. And
cdc.gov.
You bet. And then there's a little bar in the upper right that says search. And you just type in the question you have, and you'll get it.
Absolutely. So, Jeff, before we wrap up, anything you'd like to say to Dr. Fauci or to the panel, you know, everybody watching?
I really appreciate this because I think this is so much needed, because there are so many people with so many questions that they don't know where to look for answers. So just the more that we can do stuff like this to kind of get this out to the general public so that they can make their own decision is great. I 100% agree with Dr. Fauci. You know, social media is great, but social media is also, you know, where you can find the worst information in the world. So I think you have to do your own research to find out what works for you, contacting a physician or finding a place that you can go, like CDC, you know, .gov, that you can put in the information and get the answers, hopefully that'll make you feel more comfortable to make your own decision.
All right, thank you. So, Dr. Fauci and Jeff, thank you for being with us. Dr. Fauci, you know, we've been following you since you were, you know, talking about HIV and AIDS with Tom Brokaw back in the days, all the way to now. And my best to your family, you know, good health. good running. I know you're a fan of jogging, so get out there and stay in shape. Keep that cardiovascular system pumping. Jeff, stay healthy. Keep tearing up those turntables and keep doing what you do for our culture and keep lifting us up. And I just want to thank everybody who attended this virtual town hall on Rock the Bells Radio. I think this is really important, and it's for us. So thanks again. Much love. Talk soon.
Thanks a lot.
You've been listening to A Conversation with Dr. Fauci, LL Cool J, and special guests DJ Jazzy Jeff and Dr. Marcella Nunez-Smith discussing and answering your questions about the COVID vaccine on Rock the Bells Radio. Hear it again on the Sirius XM app. Search vaccine.
All right, so from what I understand about this conversation that we just listened to is that the best thing for our community is 1, research. 2, is get out of the fear of the past, but also look at what happened in the past and weigh your options. 1, the COVID illness itself, depending on you, it could be mild to extremely severe to death. So you got to make the best decision, the best choice on how you gonna go about this. What's best for you, but you gotta look at the bigger picture, the bigger story. From talking to my doctor, well, my kid's doctor, the best thing is to have some type of herd immunity. And the quickest ways to get herd immunity is have a whole bunch of people get it and make it through it, meaning they have some type of immunity to it, and both interchangeable and together have a vaccine that works. And what's the name? Dr. Fauci seemed to be very transparent on what he understood. I mean, he understands the virus itself, but what he understood as far as the adverse effects and or what's going to happen in the future. They're not quite sure on the future effects that it have to it. They went through stuff like women that's pregnant they're getting shots, to elderly people getting a shot, to the people who have autoimmune system deficiencies getting a shot, to whether eventually kids will be able to get the shots. And they're figuring out a lot of the stuff is going to happen within these next 6 or 7 months. They'll have some type of answers. Now anything past they also was trying to figure out, was it going to be a need for a booster, or would this be like a one-time shot? How is it going to affect you? Is this illness like chickenpox, where you have a chance of getting something else later on in life? They're not absolutely sure, but the indications from thus far show that that's not likely. It's not this virus is from the same family as the flu and the and chickenpox and all that, but it doesn't seem to have that stay in your system, just go dormant type thing that chickenpox and some other those viruses had, where they don't necessarily get rid of them, they just mask them. I guess that's the word to put for them. So they was looking at the different types of what's the name of the virus, and they also, if you had the virus, they suggest that you get vaccinated as well to increase your body's autoimmune response. The other thing was they was looking at the three variations of shot. Was AstraZeneca, the M word, and Johnson & Johnson. All 3 of them seem to be doing good. And I guess the word they were saying is, which one is available for you in the specific area you're going into, it's better to have the one that's available for you than not to have one at all. Far as me, I'm still on the fence about getting vaccinated. I'm leaning more towards going through the process of getting vaccinated, because it ain't just about me and my fears. It's about me protecting the people that's around me and that I love, and not making it when it comes this way. I want to dead it before it gets started. So, and I don't want to have to be able to pass it, even if it may be mild for me, it may be rough for somebody else. So I am leaning more towards the idea of getting the vaccination. I will prefer the Moderna. I will prefer the Moderna version. But Johnson & Johnson or the AstraZeneca, whichever one is available to me in the place that I am, would be what I would take. They was talking about in the future that there's probably gonna be a chance that you'll be able to kind of pick which one you want. And they figuring that to be around Mayish, when they have enough vaccinations to vaccinate everybody in the country. So I'm assuming that if they got enough to vaccinate everybody in the country, they're gonna have some clinics or some places where they have more than one of the vaccines available, and you kind of have the choice to choose. So to sum everything up, I do think that everybody's gonna eventually have a choice to make, and I do think that most of the people are gonna make the choice to take the vaccine. I'm still skeptical about it, just like anybody else. But looking at the facts, going to the websites and looking through what's the name, and looking at the fear that's happening with my household, especially my significant other, I do want to help ease her fear, and anybody else's that's around me. So I think that eventually around maybe May, June, maybe a little bit after my birthday, I may actually take the vaccine. Again, I'm still skeptical. I'm still researching. I'm still looking through, and eventually I'm going to make my decision. But I want to put this conversation out to the people that watch me and have you a chance to be able to listen and go through the information that was given. I know my phone was acting stupid, so it kept cutting off. So it's gonna be little bits of the whole interview that's gonna be missing, but you'll be able to get the gist of it. So with that being said, peace, blessings, and really take your time and figure out what's best for your family, your environment, your people around you, and get to a place where it's accessible if you choose to do it. Still wear your mask, still try to social distance as much as possible, and make good decisions. Don't let Facebook and the fear mongering deter you from making something making a choice that could save your life and people close to you that you love life. All right, this is Ando. I'm out.